The sky above the planet Lumeria was a swirl of soft green clouds, shifting gently as the twin suns sank lower. The air was warm, thick with a subtle hum of energy that the native Lumerians had long learned to live with. The Lumerians were a careful and thoughtful species, tall and thin, with translucent skin that glimmered in the sunlight. Their eyes were large and black, reflecting curiosity and caution in equal measure. For centuries, they had lived on this world, building cities of glass and crystal, studying the stars and waiting for signs of other life. Many in the council often debated if any other intelligent beings truly existed beyond their system. Some thought the universe was too vast for them to be alone, while others feared that reaching out could bring disaster. That evening, a bright object appeared on the horizon. Moving with speed and precision that no natural phenomenon could explain, the Lumari Council was called immediately, their chambers filled with quiet murmurs and anxious whispers. All sensors were activated, tracking the approaching vessel. It was sleek and metallic, unlike any construction they had seen. Its surface shimmered with colors that shifted subtly as it moved, reflecting the light of the suns in a strange and mesmerizing pattern. The Lumerians had expected exploration ships, perhaps small scouts from a nearby system, but this was different. This ship carried a sense of power and unfamiliarity that made even the most experienced scientists uneasy as it drew closer. The Lumerians watched silently, their antennas twitching with tension. The ship entered their atmosphere, and the subtle hum of energy around it made the air feel charged and heavy. It descended slowly, and a soft vibration traveled through the ground, a rhythm that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the planet itself. The council debated whether to send emissaries or wait and observe. The vessel was unlike anything they had cataloged, and their usual methods of communication might fail. The Lumerians relied on careful observation, gestures, and telepathic patterns that worked perfectly with their kind, but might be meaningless to a foreign species. Minutes passed like hours as the ship finally landed in a flat clearing surrounded by luminescent plants. The surface of the ship seemed to pulse as if alive. A ramp extended, and the air shimmered around it. Then the first figures appeared. The Lumerians tensed, noting the shape and movement of the beings stepping onto their world. They were upright, covered in smooth skin, with limbs that looked fragile yet strong. Their eyes moved quickly, scanning everything around them. Unlike the Lumerians, they did not communicate immediately. They simply observed, taking in the strange plants, the unusual sky, and the shimmering towers of the city in the distance. There was something unsettling in the way they moved, a confidence that did not belong to explorers unfamiliar with a world. A council member, the eldest of the group, whispered to the others, "We do not know them. We cannot predict their intentions." Others nodded in agreement, though fear mixed with curiosity. They had studied countless species through the long-range sensors and had encountered life forms that were aggressive, timid, or indifferent. These newcomers did not fit any known pattern. The council decided to initiate first contact carefully. A delegation of Lumerians moved toward the humans, walking slowly, their arms raised in the customary greeting. Their translucent skin shimmered with gentle colors, a sign of peaceful intent. The humans paused, tilting their heads watching, then mirroring some of the gestures in a way that was both crude and strangely accurate. It was clear they were intelligent, but the subtle cues of their culture, their history, and their survival instincts were entirely unknown. The humans began to speak, their voices strange to the Lumerians, carrying tones that vibrated deep in the chest. Words were not understood, but their tone suggested curiosity rather than immediate threat. The Lumerians shared gestures and images, projecting patterns of light and sound that represented their history and purpose. The humans responded with movements and sounds that seemed almost playful at first, then increasingly precise. There was a moment of mutual fascination, a pause where both species considered the other. It was clear the humans were adaptable, capable of understanding patterns very quickly. They were not timid or fearful. They absorbed and reacted, learning in real time. This unnerved the council members, who were used to species that followed predictable paths. As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting a soft silver glow over the clearing. The The humans set up small devices around the landing site, scanning the area. The Lumerians watched, concerned but unable to stop them. Their technology was unfamiliar, and yet it seemed to integrate effortlessly with the environment. One council scientist whispered, "They survive everywhere. Their world must be as harsh as our suns, as wild as our storms. Only such beings could move so freely in our fragile lands." The others nodded, tension rising. The humans did not seem aggressive, yet their presence carried the weight of power. The quiet confidence of beings who had endured conditions that others could not imagine. The council wondered silently what it meant for their world. Whether these newcomers were explorers, conquerors, or something entirely unknown. The humans camped for the night, making no attempt to hide or dominate. They were watchful, alert, and aware of everything. The Lumerians continued their observations from a distance, documenting each gesture, each tool, and every movement. It was clear that these humans had survived environments far more extreme than Lumeria, and that their instincts were honed for survival. The council debated if they should intervene, limit contact, or simply observe. Fear and wonder mixed in equal measure. The humans, however, seemed entirely unconcerned with the political deliberations of their hosts. They moved as if they were part of the planet already, examining, testing, and recording with an efficiency and focus that was alien in itself. By the time the first sun rose, the Lumerians had reached a tentative conclusion. They would continue observation, attempt more structured communication, and try to understand this species. Yet, deep in their hearts, they felt a tension they had never known. This was not just a meeting between two civilizations. It was a collision of instincts, of survival, and of ways of life. The humans were different from anything they had encountered, and that difference carried both potential and danger. As the humans stood at the edge of the clearing, looking out over the glass towers of the city, the Lumerians could not predict what would happen next. Only that their world had changed forever. The humans moved carefully through the luminous fields surrounding the city, each step measured yet confident. Their eyes scanned the strange plants, the tall glass towers, and the soft glow of the alien structures. They spoke quietly among themselves in a language the Lumerians could not understand, yet the tone was calm and deliberate. It was clear that these visitors were explorers in the truest sense, curious about everything around them. The Lumerians observed from the shadows, noting the way the humans adjusted to the terrain. Their quick reflexes when small creatures scuttled near, and the way they examined plants and rocks with careful hands. These beings were unlike any others the Lumerians had studied. They were adaptable, quick to learn, entirely unafraid of the new and unknown. The council held an emergency meeting to discuss how to proceed. Some argued that the humans were a threat and that the planet needed protection from potential harm. Others believed that they could learn much from these visitors if contact was handled carefully. The council decided to send a small group of emissaries to the humans, approaching slowly with gestures of peace. The humans noticed the movement immediately, pausing to watch, their expressions unreadable. When the emissaries reached them, the humans mirrored the Lumerians' gestures. A crude imitation that nonetheless showed understanding and willingness to engage. Communication began, not with words, but with gestures and shared demonstrations. The humans pointed at objects, then at themselves, indicating questions about the environment and their own capabilities. The Lumerians used light patterns to respond, showing images of the planet, the cities, and the customs of their people. The humans watched carefully, their eyes alert and observant. It was obvious that they were taking in everything, learning quickly from even the smallest details. They touched the plants gently, avoiding harm, yet they seemed to understand the uses of certain materials instantly. The Lumerians realized that these humans had evolved under harsh conditions that required quick thinking and adaptability. Their actions were precise and effective, suggesting a species that had survived dangers that others could not imagine. The council members exchanged worried glances. While the humans did not show aggression, their skill and awareness were unlike anything the Lumerians had seen. Night fell on the city, and the humans began setting up small devices that emitted soft glows and gentle vibrations. The Lumerians watched closely, noting how the humans integrated their technology with the environment without damaging it. It was clear that these visitors could adapt to any conditions, using their tools intelligently and efficiently. One council scientist remarked quietly that the humans were likely from a world far more dangerous than Lemuria, a world where only the strong and clever could survive. The other council members nodded in agreement, unease growing with each passing hour. The humans did not seem interested in dominating the planet or the species. Instead, they explored carefully, observing and testing. Learning the limits of their new environment, the humans moved closer to the city, their presence making the Lemurians nervous. They approached buildings slowly, touching walls and scanning structures with strange instruments. Some Lemurians followed from a distance, observing every motion. Noting how the humans seemed unafraid of heights, sharp edges, or unfamiliar terrain, the humans communicated among themselves in whispers and gestures, sharing information and adjusting strategies with surprising speed. It was clear that their instincts were finely tuned, a result of living in a world that tested them constantly. The council realized that the humans were not only intelligent, but also extremely resilient and resourceful. They were survivors, capable of thriving where most life would fail. As the hours passed, the humans began interacting with the smaller creatures of the planet. They moved slowly, avoiding harm, studying behaviors and patterns. The Lemurians watched in awe and concern. These humans had a way of blending observation with action that was both careful and efficient. They were learning not only about the environment, but also about the native life forms. It was a lesson in patience and adaptability, something the Lemurians had rarely seen displayed with such intensity. The humans' presence changed the city's atmosphere. The energy that had always flowed gently through the glass towers now pulsed with anticipation, as if the planet itself recognized the arrival of something extraordinary the next day. The humans ventured further into the city, examining its structures and tools. They asked questions, pointed at symbols, and experimented with devices, sometimes successfully, sometimes failing but learning quickly from their mistakes. The Lemurians tried to guide them, using gestures and light patterns to explain functions and customs. The humans absorbed the information rapidly, demonstrating an ability to understand and adapt in real time. It became clear that traditional methods of diplomacy would be tested. These visitors were not only intelligent, but also unpredictable, a combination that made them both fascinating and potentially dangerous. Throughout the day, the humans' behavior revealed a complex mix of curiosity, caution, and skill. They approached every challenge methodically, testing limits, observing reactions, and adjusting their actions. The Lemurians noticed how the humans protected each other, communicated silently, and reacted swiftly to potential dangers. One council member whispered that they were witnessing something extraordinary, a species that could survive and thrive in any environment, a species whose instincts were honed by extreme conditions. The humans did not seek conflict, yet the ease with which they navigated challenges suggested that they could be formidable if provoked. By evening, the humans had mapped several areas of the city and its surroundings, leaving subtle marks and notes for themselves. They had interacted with local life forms, learned about the energy flows of the planet, and studied the architecture with care. The Lemurians were both impressed and uneasy. These visitors were capable of understanding complex systems almost instantly, adapting to challenges that would have overwhelmed most species. The council realized that their world was witnessing a historic encounter, one that could change their understanding of life, intelligence, and survival. The humans, meanwhile, seemed unaware of the tension their presence caused. They moved with calm determination, focused on observation and understanding, their resilience and skill evident in every action. As night fell, the humans camped near the city's edge, preparing their equipment for the next day. They observed the skies, the twin moons, and the glowing flora, taking notes and making adjustments. The Lemurians watched silently, continuing their own documentation. They knew that their first impressions were only the beginning. The humans were not ordinary travelers. They were survivors of harsh worlds, creatures who could endure and adapt to extremes that others could not imagine. The council understood that their encounter with these humans was a turning point. The planet had been peaceful, predictable, and safe. But now it was filled with the presence of beings who brought uncertainty, skill, and raw adaptability. The humans did not seek to harm, but their abilities alone suggested a force that could change the world. And the Lumerians would need to understand them fully if they were to survive this extraordinary meeting. The humans spent the next day moving deeper into the city, their eyes alert and hands ready for any challenge. They approached the tall towers carefully, touching surfaces, testing stability, and observing patterns. Their movements were deliberate and precise, as if every action had been practiced 1,000 times. The Lumerians watched from a distance, uneasy but fascinated. The humans were strong, intelligent, and entirely self-reliant. They did not ask for help unless it was necessary, and even then, they only took what was offered without hesitation. The council debated quietly about what this meant. These visitors were not like any other species they had encountered. They were capable, confident, and entirely unpredictable. Small incidents began to occur as the humans explored. A creature from the forest ventured too close, and the humans reacted instantly, capturing it gently and studying it without causing harm. Another time, a structure began to collapse under the weight of unusual weather. The humans worked together to stabilize it, using tools and instincts that amazed the Lumerians. The aliens whispered among themselves, trying to interpret the humans' behavior. They were puzzled by the visitors' ability to survive and act efficiently in every situation. It was not just intelligence or strength. It was something deeper, a combination of experience, instinct, and resilience that made these humans unique. The council realized they were witnessing a species capable of thriving under extreme conditions, a species that had likely survived challenges far greater than anything on Lu. MERIA. Communication between the humans and Lumerians continued, slowly improving. The humans learned to understand some of the light patterns the Lumerians used, while the aliens began to grasp certain gestures and actions the humans used to express themselves. Despite this progress, the Lumerians remained cautious. The humans' intentions were still unclear, and their adaptability made them unpredictable. Every successful interaction built trust. But it also reminded the council that they were dealing with beings who could survive almost anywhere, who could act with skill and determination beyond normal comprehension. The Lumerians understood that they needed to be careful. These humans could be allies, but they could also be a threat if provoked. As the day went on, the humans began exploring the surrounding landscape. They climbed hills, tested rivers, and examined forests with careful observation. They moved efficiently, leaving no trace of harm. Yet every action displayed awareness of danger and the ability to respond quickly. The Lumerians followed from a distance, noting the humans' methods and reactions. One council member commented that they were like predators, yet their intent was not to harm but to understand and survive. The humans adapted to every new challenge with ease, showing skills and instincts that suggested a lifetime spent in harsh conditions. The council felt both awe and fear. The humans were intelligent, strong, and adaptable, qualities that could make them valuable allies or dangerous enemies. By evening, the humans had mapped several areas of the city and its surroundings, leaving subtle marks and notes for themselves. They had interacted with local life forms, learned about energy flows of the planet, and studied architecture with care. The Lumerians were impressed by their speed and precision. They realized that these visitors could understand complex systems almost instantly, adapting to challenges that would have overwhelmed most species. The council knew that their world had changed. The humans were not ordinary explorers. They were survivors of harsh worlds, beings who could endure conditions that would destroy others. The Lumerians were beginning to understand that they could not predict the humans' actions, and this unpredictability made them both fascinating and unsettling. Small misunderstandings began to occur as well. The humans' curiosity sometimes clashed with the Lumerians' customs. One day, a human approached a sacred site, touching it in ways that were considered disrespectful. The Lumerians reacted with caution, trying to communicate that the place was important. The humans paused, observed, and then adjusted their behavior. It was clear that they were capable of learning quickly, understanding the rules once they were explained, and adapting their actions accordingly. The council realized that these visitors were capable of respecting rules and social norms, but only if they were clearly communicated. Their intelligence was practical, not blindly obedient. This made them efficient, but also unpredictable, as they could not be assumed to follow any custom without understanding it. The humans also showed a surprising understanding of danger. During an unexpected storm, they took shelter in a sturdy structure, using tools and instincts to protect themselves and each other. They helped a small group of Lumerians who were caught outside, showing both strength and empathy. The council observed this closely. It was clear that the humans could survive extreme conditions, work as a team, and make decisions under pressure. These qualities set them apart from any species the Lumerians had encountered. The humans did not seek to dominate or destroy. They acted with efficiency and intelligence, surviving and helping where they could. Yet their presence reminded the Lumerians that survival on such a scale brought power, and power carried responsibility and risk. The humans spent their second night outside, camping near a river, studying the stars and making quiet observations. They took notes and prepared for the next day's exploration. The Lumerians continued to watch, recording every gesture and behavior. They were beginning to understand the pattern. Humans were careful, adaptive, and observant. They survived by learning, responding, and adjusting quickly. The council realized that the human skills were honed by conditions far harsher than anything on Lumeria. They were trained by survival itself, a force more demanding than any law or tradition. This realization brought both respect and unease. The humans were not just visitors. They were a species shaped by extreme challenges, capable of actions that the Lumerians could barely comprehend. By the third day, the humans had gained confidence in the city and the surrounding land. They explored with caution, yet they were bold enough to test limits, climb heights, and cross rivers. Their movements were precise, efficient, and intelligent. They communicated with each other silently at times, sharing information and making decisions quickly. The Lumerians noted that these humans seemed almost instinctively coordinated, able to act as a team without confusion or delay. The council realized that they were observing a species that could survive almost anywhere, that could act with intelligence and efficiency under pressure, and that could adapt to challenges almost instantly. The humans were not aggressive, yet their abilities suggested a presence that could not be ignored. The council understood that their world would never be the same. These visitors were not ordinary, they were extraordinary, a species shaped by survival and endurance, capable of facing dangers that most life could not endure. The humans had arrived, and their presence carried a weight that the Lumerians would need to respect and understand if they were to continue living in peace on their planet. A sudden tremor shook the city, the ground vibrating as if the planet itself had shifted. The Lumerians watched in alarm as rocks tumbled from nearby hills and small structures cracked under the stress. They had rarely experienced natural disasters of this intensity. Panic rippled through the city as citizens rushed to find safety. The humans reacted immediately, moving quickly but without fear. They assessed the danger, helping to stabilize falling debris, guiding the Lumerians away from hazardous areas, and using tools to secure structures that could collapse. Their speed and efficiency surprised the council. These visitors were not only strong, but also capable of quick thinking under pressure, responding to situations with a combination of instinct and intelligence that was unlike anything the Lumerians had seen. The disaster revealed the humans' ability to adapt to extreme conditions. They worked in teams, coordinating actions without confusion, communicating with gestures and signals that were clear and effective. The Lumerians tried to follow their lead, but they realized quickly that the humans' instincts and experience allowed them to act far faster and more efficiently. One council member whispered that these beings were not ordinary. They were survivors of worlds where danger was constant, and only those who could adapt and think quickly could live. The humans moved with precision, saving trapped citizens, reinforcing buildings, and calming frightened crowds. It was clear that they could handle emergencies that would overwhelm most species. As the tremor subsided, humans began to explore the cause of the disaster. They examined the hills, checked for unstable ground, and studied the flow of energy through the environment. Their observations were methodical, careful, and intelligent. The Lumerians noticed that they did not act recklessly or with arrogance. They were cautious, yet they were capable of actions that required strength, speed, and skill. The Council realized that the humans' abilities were shaped by a combination of survival instinct, intelligence, and physical capability. They could respond to threats with efficiency and confidence, and they could adapt to unexpected changes without panic. This made them both impressive and dangerous in the eyes of the Lumerians. During the disaster, the humans had also shown empathy and cooperation. They helped injured creatures, rescued citizens who were trapped, and coordinated efforts to prevent further damage. Their actions were effective, yet they did not dominate or control unnecessarily. The Lumerians observed this closely, realizing that the human strength was balanced by intelligence and caution. These were not beings who sought to conquer or destroy. They were survivors, capable of using their skills to respond to challenges and protect others when necessary. The Council began to understand that their world had been visited by a species that combined intelligence, strength, and adaptability in ways that were rare and extraordinary. After the immediate danger passed, the humans took time to observe and record the environment. They studied the impact of the tremor, the behavior of plants and animals, and the condition of the buildings. The Lumerians noticed that the humans' curiosity and careful observation were constant. They learned quickly, adjusted their methods, and adapted to the unique challenges of Lumeria. The Council discussed the implications of this. These visitors were not only physically capable, but also mentally agile, able to understand complex situations and respond effectively. Their presence was changing the city, the planet, and the way the Lumerians viewed life and survival. The humans continued to explore, moving further from the city to areas that had been affected by the disaster. They navigated difficult terrain with skill, using tools and instincts to overcome obstacles. The Lumerians followed at a distance, recording every action and noting patterns in behavior. It was clear that the humans' experiences on their own worlds had trained them to handle extreme conditions, to survive where others might fail. The Council realized that this knowledge could not be taught easily. It was earned through experience, honed through challenges that tested the limits of strength, intelligence, and resilience. The humans' ability to adapt, survive, and act efficiently made them unique and formidable. During these explorations, minor conflicts arose with the local wildlife. Predators approached, and the humans responded with careful strategy. Using tools and positioning to protect themselves and others, they did not act recklessly or without thought. Their movements were precise, calculated, and effective. The observed in silence, recognizing that the humans' instincts were unmatched, their survival skills exceptional. The Council members felt both admiration and concern. These visitors could navigate dangers that the Lumerians would avoid, respond to challenges instantly, and adapt to new situations without hesitation. Their presence was a reminder that survival was not simply a matter of strength or intelligence alone. It was the combination of skill, instinct, and experience. By evening, the humans had returned to the city, assessing damage, helping rebuild, and preparing for future challenges. They worked tirelessly, demonstrating endurance, teamwork, and focus. The Lumerians continued to observe, realizing that these visitors were capable of more than they could have imagined. The Council discussed the long-term implications. The humans were not aggressive, but their abilities were extraordinary. They could adapt to extreme conditions, respond to threats with speed and intelligence, and act as a cohesive unit. Their presence challenged the Lumerians' understanding of life, survival, and adaptability. The humans had arrived not as conquerors, but as survivors, being shaped by harsh worlds and extreme experiences. The Council understood that the planet had been changed by their arrival, and that future interactions would require caution, respect, and careful observation. The Lumerian scholars gathered in a quiet chamber, discussing everything they had observed about the humans. Every gesture, every action, and every response had been recorded and analyzed. Slowly, patterns emerged that revealed the extraordinary nature of these visitors. The humans were not only strong and intelligent, but also shaped by extreme conditions. Their instincts were sharp, their reactions fast, and their decisions carefully calculated. One scholar explained that the humans' homeworlds must have been harsh and dangerous, teaching them to survive where other species would fail. The council listened in awe, realizing that these visitors were truly different from anything they had encountered. The humans were not merely explorers. They were survivors in the truest sense. The humans themselves continued to explore and study the city. Interacting with Lumerians in careful ways, they learned quickly, adjusting to customs, understanding tools, and observing life with attention and patience. The Lumerians noticed that the humans did not act without thought. Their curiosity was balanced by caution and awareness. They respected rules once they were explained, showing a capacity to understand and adapt to new cultures. Yet even with this respect, their raw abilities and instincts reminded the Lumerians that these were being shaped by survival in extreme conditions. The council realized that intelligence alone did not describe these visitors. Their combination of strength, resilience, and adaptability made them extraordinary. As the days passed, the Lumerians shared their knowledge with the humans, showing history, technology, and culture. The humans absorbed this information with ease, asking questions through gestures and simple tools that allowed for clear communication. They were able to understand patterns, energy flows, and social structures that would take other species weeks or months to learn. The Lumerians were impressed but also cautious. A species that could understand so quickly could also act unpredictably. While the humans did not show aggression, the council knew that their capabilities were immense. These were not creatures to underestimate, and their presence could change the balance of the planet if not handled carefully. One evening, a council scholar presented a theory to the others. She suggested that humans had evolved on worlds where life itself was a constant struggle, where only those who adapted could survive. Their physical and mental abilities had been honed by generations of living in danger and extreme conditions. The Lumerians considered this, realizing that it explained much of what they had observed. The humans were not reckless. They were careful and deliberate because survival had taught them to act quickly and intelligently. Every decision they made was informed by experience, instincts, and a deep understanding of risk. This knowledge allowed them to thrive in situations that would overwhelm most species. The humans continued to interact with the city and its inhabitants, helping where needed and observing everything with care. They repaired structures damaged by storms, assisted injured Lumerians, and studied the environment with scientific curiosity. The council began to understand that these visitors were capable of cooperation and empathy. They could work as a team, protect others, and respond to challenges with efficiency. The humans' abilities were not limited to survival alone. They could also enhance the safety and well-being of those around them. The Lumerians realized that these visitors could be powerful allies if treated with respect and care. Yet the unpredictability of their instincts and skills required vigilance. The scholars also noted the humans' strategic thinking. When faced with new challenges, they did not act randomly. They observed, assessed, and then acted with precision. Their decisions were informed by both intelligence and experience, allowing them to succeed where others might fail. The Lumerians realized that their visitors had likely faced life-or-death situations countless times, shaping their judgment and abilities. This understanding deepened their respect and wariness. Humans were not just strong and clever, they were capable of extraordinary feats under pressure. The council understood that the planet had been visited by beings who could survive extremes, adapt instantly, and act with purpose and skill. The humans also showed creativity in their approach. They tested ideas, experimented with tools, and adapted quickly when something did not work. Their actions were always directed toward understanding and survival, yet they demonstrated problem-solving skills that were advanced even for intelligent species. The Lumerians observed silently, noting that these abilities were not learned in the classroom or through simple experience alone. They were instincts shaped by the harshest environments. The humans had become experts at reading situations, assessing risk, and acting decisively. This combination of intelligence, skill, and instinct made them both remarkable and formidable. By the end of the week, the council had a clearer picture of the humans. They were not a threat by intent, but their power and adaptability meant that they could dominate if provoked or mishandled. The Lumerians realized that their society would never be the same. These visitors had introduced new ideas, skills, and energy into their world, challenging their understanding of life, survival, and intelligence. The humans had arrived not as conquerors, but as beings shaped by extreme challenges, capable of thriving where others might fail. The council knew that future interactions would require care, observation, and mutual respect. The humans were extraordinary survivors, and their presence would forever alter the way the Lumerians saw the universe themselves and the potential of life beyond their world. The humans spent their final days on Lumeria, exploring and observing. Yet their actions were careful and measured. They interacted with the Lumerians, helping where needed, studying the environment, testing the limits of their abilities. The Lumerians noticed how the humans adapted to every challenge with skill and calm determination. They moved through the cities, forests, and rivers with confidence. Yet they respected the world around them, never causing harm without reason. The council watched silently, understanding that these visitors were not ordinary beings. They were survivors, trained by extreme worlds and difficult experiences, able to act with intelligence, strength, and instinct simultaneously. As the humans prepared to depart, the Lumerians gathered to observe one last time. The humans packed their equipment carefully, checked their instruments, and communicated quietly among themselves. They did not rush or act recklessly. Their movements were precise, efficient, and purposeful. The Lumerians realized that these visitors carried the lessons of survival within them, instincts and knowledge that could not be learned in a calm or safe environment. Every gesture, every action was informed by experience. The council felt awe and respect for the humans, acknowledging that their presence had forever changed the way they saw life, danger, and adaptability. Before leaving, the humans interacted one last time with the Lumerians, sharing information through gestures and tools that conveyed ideas about survival, exploration, and understanding. They showed respect for the planet, the culture, and the inhabitants. The Lumerians observed carefully, learning from the humans' methods and behaviors. Even in departure, the humans demonstrated skill, intelligence, and awareness. The council understood that these beings had survived extreme worlds, faced countless dangers, and adapted to environments far harsher than their own. Their presence was a reminder that life could endure and thrive under conditions that most species could never imagine. The humans climbed into their ship, which shimmered with the same strange light as when it had arrived. They checked instruments, reviewed observations, and prepared for takeoff. The Lumerians watched silently as the ship lifted off the ground, moving smoothly and precisely through the atmosphere. It was clear that the humans were leaving not because they had finished exploring, but because they had completed their study and were returning to other worlds. The council reflected on what they had learned. These visitors were extraordinary, shaped by survival, intelligence, and experience. They had arrived quietly, studied carefully, and adapted seamlessly to an unfamiliar world. Their abilities had impressed and unsettled the Lumerians, leaving a lasting impression on their culture, knowledge, and perspective. Once the ship disappeared into the horizon, the Lumerians gathered to discuss the implications of this encounter. Scholars shared observations about the humans' intelligence, instincts, and adaptability. Leaders considered how their presence had altered the city, the environment, and the understanding of life itself. The council agreed that these visitors were not merely explorers. They were survivors in the truest sense, beings capable of thriving in extremes, acting decisively, and adapting instantly to any challenge. The Lumerians realized that the universe held species far more resilient and capable than they had previously imagined. The humans had left a legacy of knowledge, respect, and awe, The city slowly returned to normal, yet the memory of the humans' presence remained. Citizens spoke quietly of their strength, intelligence, and efficiency. Scholars continued to study the records of their behavior, analyzing every action, gesture, and decision. The Lumerians understood that their world had been changed, that new perspectives on survival, adaptability, and intelligence had been introduced. The humans had not dominated or conquered, yet their influence was undeniable. They had shown what it meant to endure, to adapt, and to survive in the harshest conditions, leaving a lasting impact on the minds and culture of the Lumerians. In the following weeks, the Lumerians reflected on the encounter. They discussed the importance of preparation, observation, and understanding in dealing with other intelligent species. They recognized that survival required more than technology or intelligence alone. It demanded instinct, adaptability, and experience. The humans had exemplified these qualities, showing that life could endure and thrive even in the most challenging environments. The council concluded that future encounters with other species would need the same caution, respect, and careful observation that they had shown with the humans. The Lumerians had witnessed the arrival of beings unlike any they had seen. They would remember these lessons for generations. The story of the humans, the Deathworlders, spread throughout Lumeria. Citizens, scholars, and leaders spoke of their intelligence, resilience, and skill. They remembered how the humans had helped during disasters, observed carefully, and adapted seamlessly. The Lumerians understood that life beyond their planet could be extraordinary, filled with species capable